Hi, everyone. Recently, I led a couple of sessions at an EdTech Team Summit, and one thing that some of the attendees really liked about my flipped classroom session was that I had recorded it so that they could watch it again at a later date. So I thought I would do the same thing with my Googley resources for Monday morning session, and this actually tends to be one of my most popular sessions, especially with beginners that are just introducing themselves to using technology in the classroom. So I thought I'd do a quick kind of overview of this session for those that either have been to my session and would like to kind of review it, or for those who are looking for resources that you can immediately begin using on Monday morning. So if you don't have it, this is some of my information. I am a math avid and tech teacher, as well as a team technology leader at Cedar Middle School in Hesperia, California. And I have my email, Twitter, and website here for you to access if you would like that as well. Now, some of the goals of this session are, one, to find resources that you can immediately begin using in your classroom. Because sometimes when you attend summits, you have so many ideas and so many things you want to do and create that it can get a little bit overwhelming to the point where you're not sure exactly where to start. So the thing that I try to do is actually give resources that can be used the minute you step into your classroom, and all you have to do is really tweak the resources you've already been given. And from here, then, that leads us to our next goal, hopefully that you'll get some ideas for how to use Google Apps in other ways besides the ways that I'm sharing. And then if this was a regular session, we'd also talk and share ideas, which is always a lot of fun because I always get a lot of great ideas from the people attending my sessions. But I always joke that this is called my Oprah session because you get tons of free resources, things that you can immediately begin using in your classroom without worrying about creating it and getting overwhelmed with some of the more technology or logistics of it. So the first thing I'm going to share is a daily check-in. And this is a daily check-in that is used with my students. And basically it's via Google Forms, and they fill this out as they come into class. So if you want a copy of this, all you have to do is click on it. It will force a copy, and you can make your own copy. Now, this is the editor view that will show up, but I'll show you what it looks like if you were a student by just going up to this button and clicking Preview. So when you come in here, if you were a student, you could start putting in your information. And again, this is something my students do as they're entering class, what class period they're in. And then I ask them something about their day. So how is their day going? And then is there anything that they want to share about their day? And one great thing, actually there's many great things about doing this, but some of the great things about asking them about their day is just kind of learning a little bit more about them outside of the classroom, because that definitely affects them when they are in the classroom as well. And sometimes some students don't share anything, but sometimes students share some things that are really important to know. So I've had students in the past that maybe they had gotten sick or something to come up with family, so they were unable to complete an assignment. And instead of, saying it in front of other students or in front of the class, this was a private way that they could share kind of why that assignment wasn't completed. I've also had students kind of tell me about things that are going on. Maybe their grandma died. I had a student one year who had kind of been relocated from their home due to fires and flooding, and so his internet access had been kind of spotty, and it just kind of gave me a different insight into his family. And then sometimes they just share silly stuff, like what they ate at lunch, or all of those funny kind of middle school stories that you get from kids. But there tends to be a lot of really good information. And for those kids that click it's not a good day, I try to kind of pull those kids aside later and see how they're doing, not in front of their friends, of course, but just kind of privately to see, what's going on in their day, so I can make sure that I'm supporting them in a way that is going to help them learn. So then I have some questions for them. So in this case, it's a session. So if you're, confident using Google Apps in your classroom, you would click Totally Confident. And then what is one thing you hope to learn today? The way that this looks in my math classroom is I might ask them, how did you feel on the notes that you completed last night? Or do you need to review this with a teacher in class? And this helps me to sort them into groups and see how they're feeling about that flipped lesson that they had received the night before. I also always have a quote of the day. It's really a quote of the week because usually I don't change it every day. And then at the end, I usually have some daily practice for them to do. Usually it's on Khan Academy, so if they click on that link, it will take them to some practice Khan Academy problems that they can do on here. And that is something I tend to change each day. Now to view those results, and you're not gonna, this is like a new sheet, so there wouldn't be any results. I probably should have submitted it. You can go into responses and you could view your responses from there. For myself, I tend to kind of clean out this spreadsheet because you could also create a spreadsheet from it. And that way all the results will show up in here as well. And this is actually where I usually look. And then what I do, after the day has finished, I come in and I, highlight the columns that have data in there from the students. And then I just delete them out and delete rows. And that way I have a fresh start the next day. So that is a daily check-in. And again, if you want to use this, the minute you clicked on this link right here, it made you your own copy and it's going to show up in your Google Drive now as copy of daily check-in. So now it is your own to use, and then you can come in here in the edit version and modify it. Okay, so the next resource I'm going to share is called a vocabulary slide deck. And this is a way to take vocabulary to another level by using Google Slides. So this is what the blank slide deck looks like. And if you would like to have your own copy of this, since it's not set up for forced copy, you can just come up to File, make a copy, and then when you click OK, that will create a copy of it for you and place it in your Google Drive. Now, as you can see, it kind of looks boring, and this is a model of a FIR model. So where they would put in their vocabulary word in the middle, what is the definition of this word, some facts and characteristics, how can you use it in a sentence, and then some examples and illustrations. And I really let the students just do whatever they want with this in terms of being creative. So I am looking at this content to make sure that these things do make sense, that they align with what we're talking about. But then I allow them to get as creative as they want. So an example of this is I've got a student sample, and it's one that we did with Unit 4 of our Math 8 course on linear functions and equations. And you can see they kind of redecorated this front slide, which was pretty boring. They put in some pictures, they changed the text, they made it very colorful. And as we start going through the vocabulary words, you can see that they kind of made it their own. The content is there, but that extra little bit of creativity of just adding some color and changing the font just makes vocabulary words just a little bit more fun to them. But as you can see, the content and the things that I want them to know, they're still there, but they get to do it in a way that is different and fun and unique for them. So just a couple more example slides so you can kind of see what this looks like. And again, if you want to make your own copy of this, you just go up to File and make a copy. And all of that is done in Google Slides. Now, HyperDoc subplans is another resource I'm going to share, and this is a way to take your substitute lesson plans and put them in the hands of your students. So because of the many roles that I have at my site, I tend to be pulled out of the classroom a lot. Maybe it's for math or for AVID or for technology or different committees I'm on, and I can be out somewhere between 20 to 30 times per year. And that's a lot of days, and so I wanted to find a way to make it feel like I wasn't losing a day. Because unfortunately, sometimes our subplans aren't always followed through to fruition, or maybe we didn't explain it clearly, so the sub isn't exactly sure what to do. However, what I wanted to do was still leave subplans behind for the teacher, but also leave some behind for the student. So in this example, you can see a copy of what I leave for my students, and I kind of modeled this after HyperDocs. And so you can look at this, and this gives them a lot of things that they can do in a day. And this actually is probably more than my students would ever do in a day, but I try to leave them lots of, things that they can do so that they don't run out of options. So the beginning part, your Engage Explorers right here, they've got their daily check-in and practice. And then they've got our explain portion where the notes are actually created with Google Slides and Screencastify and then uploaded to Edpuzzle. And from there, students can take notes, and there are questions that have been embedded in between that video to check for understanding. And then I just do a little check to see, do they have any questions about this? And, do you have anything that you want me to review with you when we get back? Then this is that kind of apply part right here where they start applying that knowledge. And this is just a simple skills practice. We kind of have a balance between skills and project-based learning activities in my class. And so this would just be a simple skills practice that they can do on their own. And then this is kind of that, extend part, so a little bit out of order. But this allows students that have completed these activities choices of things that they can do if they have extra time. So they could work on their stock market enrichment project, or they could continue their Khan Academy mission, or they could play Prodigy. And then at the end of class, I have them reflect on how did the class go, and do they have any questions, comments, or concerns? Now, for those of you who are kind of wondering how the students would write on this, I'll just kind of show you Google Classroom real quick. So the way that I would do this with my students is that I would assign it in Google Classroom and make a copy for each student. So I'm just going to choose kind of a really simple class. So if I wanted to, I could just come over here. I could create an assignment, and then I will go to my drive. Let me show that one more time. So there's a little drive icon right here. And then look for that, Tuesday, October 25th is the lesson plans. Now right here on Google Classroom, and this might be very familiar to many of you, right now it says students can view the file. That means they can't edit it. However, if I change it to students can edit file, that means they can all edit the same file, which still isn't exactly what we want because we don't want 30 students responding in this one blank space. So instead, I'm going to choose make a copy for each student. And that makes a unique copy for each student, and it even places their name into the title of that file so that you can easily see whose assignment you're looking at. So that's how I would share that with them. And that's actually the same process I would do with the vocabulary slide deck as well that I was showing you on our previous resource. I would assign it in Google Classroom, and I would have it make a copy for each student. All right, so those were our HyperDoc subplans. And again, it's just really useful to put those subplans in the hands of the students. So what they start to see is that there really is no excuse for not completing activities. And it also allows me to not lose days as a teacher. So they can still get their notes, they can still complete assignments. And if they say, well, we didn't know, then I always pull it up on Google Classroom and ask for them to kind of look it over, read it again. And I just try to put that into their hands and to kind of create some self-sufficiency for them. And that way it just helps when I have to be out of the classroom. All right, so another thing I'm going to share with you guys, and if you want this presentation, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I do have it in my blog post as well as on YouTube. There's a link to this in there, and it's going to be super useful for you to have this link because when you come here, I've got tons of graphic organizers that I've created via Google Drawings that you can just begin using and you don't have to make. So I've got a cause and effect one. And as you can see, this is drawings. It's the kind of red little icon one. And so students can just type into these boxes. I've also got a for and against. So kind of a compare and contrast. We did this with should college athletes be paid during our Avid write-off. So why should they be paid and why should they not be paid? Informative speech, this was a more advanced one, but I was really trying to help the students break down like their 3 main points of their informative speech, because this tends to be a little bit of a struggle for students. And it really helped them narrow down what they were going to talk about by saying, okay, this is my overall topic. Here are my 3 main points. And here are some sub-points within those main points that I'm going to discuss. There is a timeline. So I think I use this in our stock market project. And that way you could change these dates right here just by clicking on them. But then students could add in their own information here. And then I've got a tree map that I created. We use this as a diversification map when we were talking about our stock markets and, investing into different industries and what companies were within those industries. And again, students just click on the words and they can change the text. We've got a goals and objectives, and I use this in our Avid Site team meeting. So we had kind of 3 main areas that we were focusing on. And then from there, what are we doing to meet these goals? And then what are other things we could do to help us meet those goals? And this was something that we actually did in our site team. And then we kind of compared our responses and compiled this into one graphic organizer. Then finally, an organizing and essay one. And again, this is definitely a more complicated graphic organizer, but the idea was to help our students get some structure to writing their essays, which is definitely something they need. Now, the nice thing is that you've got all of these that you can immediately begin using in your classroom, and you can always come in and tweak them to fit your classroom and your style. But again, you just go up to File, make a copy, and then all of these are for you. All right, the next thing I'm going to share is calendars and project planning. So these are some calendars that I created for a couple of purposes. One was just a very simple purpose of, as a part of our AVID team, we were trying to have a calendar that all students in our entire school could use to keep track of their assignments, whether it's classwork or homework, and just help them create a digital agenda. Because at one point we had agendas that were paper, but as we got the Chromebooks, we decided to not continue investing in those paper copies. Unfortunately, when we did that, most students, most teachers didn't know what the students could use, so the students didn't end up using anything to track their assignments, which was a great disservice to them because it's such a great process. So instead, what we did was we created a digital calendar for them in Google Slides. And when they go through the slide, they'll see there's some dates here. And the nice thing is, if they just click on that date, a link pops up, and it will automatically take them to that week. And then across the bottom, you can also see that there are months there, and if you click on that link, it will take you to that month. And then within those, there are weeks. And within that week, you can write, or the students could write down what they need to do for English, math, science, social studies, PE, and their elective. So this has worked out really well. This is actually something we're using school-wide at our site. And the students have gotten really good about using it as long as it's something that's being, followed through within their classes. But as an AVID program, we've seen a lot of benefits to that. And the students are really good about filling it out. And it only takes them a couple minutes to fill it out at the beginning of class. So in addition to that weekly calendar, there's also a monthly calendar. And this one is kind of a similar setup as the previous one, except it's monthly rather than weekly. And within that monthly calendar, it just looks like this. And they could go put things down based upon the month that they're in, and they could see all the weeks at a glance rather than, having to go between the different weeks. Now, my second purpose in creating some calendars was also to do a project planning calendar. So the one I use the most, and there is a weekly one, but I use the monthly project calendar in our Spartan Tech Squad class because they're currently working on 20-time projects. And 20-time projects, Genius Hour projects, all of those are great, but there does have to be some structure to it, and we do have to teach students how to set goals and see how those goals went after a certain time period. So I actually modeled this after part of what I had done during my Google Innovator project to help me keep track. So the idea is that the students would set some new goals, and if they had ongoing goals from the month before that they had not met, they could list it here. They would list any ideas, questions, and comments that they have for themselves. It's almost like a little mini journal where they can keep track of their thoughts and what they're doing. I guess a running record, you could say. And then at the end of the month, they would say, what's their status? Did they meet those goals? And so this process so far has actually been really good for our students that are working on the 20-time project because it's helped narrow their focus. And they've also kind of learned how to create realistic goals because many students create goals such as, I will build, a website. And they think that'll take them 1 month, but because it's something they're so new to, it actually ends up taking them much more time. So what they end up learning over time is how do you break down those tasks within it so that they can have achievable goals for each month. Now, again, if you want to use those, you just go to File, make a copy, and then you can use that calendar or the project planning calendar in your classes as well. Now, last, I'm going to share some helpful Chrome extensions that you can use, and some of these have kind of academic resources to it, but some are just for fun. So the first one is Bitly, and this is probably one of my favorite extensions to use. And so if you want the link to the extension, you'll just click on this. It will take you to the Chrome Web Store. And as you can see, mine says added to Chrome. and you just need to simply add it to your own Chrome browser. Now, Bitly is really great because you can create short links with just a click of a button. So my little Bitly icon is right up here. And if I wanted to create a link to this slide, all I have to do is click on it. And as you can see, it already made me a link. And it was super quick. And if I copy it, then this is my link. And that's a much shorter link than what you see here. Now, one thing I really like is that you can also customize this. So I could change this to, Googley resources, which isn't going to work because I already have that one. And now it's a bit.ly/Googley resources, which is even easier to share. So as you can see, that's kind of what I've done here. So in the top right, I put bit.ly/Googley resources, and that is a link to this presentation that is still usable. And it's a short link that all I did was I just simply clicked on the Bitly link, and then I adjusted that kind of end of that URL to make it what I want. All right, Screencastify is actually something I'm using right now. And Screencastify is an extension at the top of your browser. And it's really, really great because it allows you to record. So let me see if I can open up my home browser. So I think I had this on this presentation as well. Okay, so I just opened up another window so that you can see what Screencastify looks like. So like I mentioned, this is something I'm actually using right now to record. And if I wanted to record, all I do is I click on the Screencastify button, and it gives me the option to sign in, which is probably something that's going to happen to you guys. But the first time that you sign in, you're going to have to, let's see, I'll just do that account. And then you also have to set it up. So this is actually kind of good that it's walking me through. So once you get signed in, this is kind of where all your videos are stored. And you can see I've created quite a few of them. But once you get this set up, you can click on the extension, and then you can choose to record via tab or via desktop. Now, if you're on a laptop or you have a webcam enabled, you'll see another option show up that will say camera, and you can also record yourself. But I don't have my camera plugged into my desktop right now, so that's not showing up. So tab basically means everything in the screen that you're on. Desktop would mean the entire computer screen, even including this bar. So the video I'm recording right now is on desktop view, because as you've seen, I've been kind of going in and out of windows and, opening up different resources. Whereas if I was in tab view, you would only ever get to see the current tab I had started recording in. And then you can kind of check if it's working, the microphone is working, because as you can see, as I'm talking, this little bar is going up and down. And when you're in tab view, you can also even use drawing tools, and you could write on your presentation as you are presenting. So Screencastify is probably one of my most used extensions. It is free to use. It's $10 for, it's free to use for up to 10 minutes. So that means you can record for up to 10 minutes, but you will have kind of a Screencastify logo in the top right. Or if you want to purchase Screencastify, last I checked, it was about $24 for a year, which is such a steal. So it's really cheap and it's totally worth it. So on my work account, I have purchased it so that I can use it at any time. Now, one other thing to note about that is that when you record those videos, you also have it automatically saved into your Google Drive folder. So it automatically saves, and you don't even have to worry about downloading it. All right, one other extension I really like is the Google Dictionary extension. And the Google Dictionary extension is an extension where you can simply click, you could type in a word, and the definition shows up. And this is really great for students because then they don't have to leave the screen. All they have to do is just type the word that they're trying to search for, and they can stay within their current browser. So it's a really neat little extension that it's not real complicated, but it's kind of cool. Now these next two extensions I can't really model for you right now just because I need to get them installed. But what's great is Read and Write and Equatio are now free. And these used to be $100 a year, and they used to not be free. And these are fantastic extensions. The read and write one is great for students, especially our EL students. You could highlight text on a page. When you go into the extension, click play, and it will actually read the text on that web page to the user. So again, really great for those EL students who are struggling to read. They can have it read to them. And Equatio, for myself as a math teacher, is such a big deal because when you're in Google Slides or Google Forms, you can't create equations very easily. And we had GMath for Forms before, and this is actually the same creator, if I understand correctly. And he's just kind of taken this to the next level, and it's really amazing, and I wish I could show you. But I'm kind of waiting to get my membership on that. So all you do is you can type in, or you could talk, or you could draw, and it will easily create the equations for you. Now, kind of like I was mentioning, this is actually free now. So the link to the extension on both of these is actually not a link to the extension, but it's a link to the basically blog post that shows you how you can get this for free. And all you have to do is come down here and you have to register. You just got to submit some information on which ones you want, or you can choose both. And then after 24 hours, they'll send you an email, and then you can start using this. But this is such a steal to be able to have these for free now if you're an educator. So I highly encourage you to sign up for that because it is going to be well worth your time. And then the very last thing I'm going to show, and this is more for productivity, is Extensity. So as you can see, I've got a lot of different extensions that are showing up along my kind of toolbar up here. And if I didn't want to use all of those, when I click on the Extensity one, I can actually start turning them off. And this will keep my Chrome browser from getting too slow. So you can start to see them disappear. And it makes this bar longer. And again, makes it to where your Chrome browser won't get too slow with too many extensions. So it just disables them, but it doesn't remove them, which is really nice. So hopefully some of those resources you found to be very helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or contact me on Twitter, or also view my website. Thank you.